Welcome, everybody. I'm Kim Hosen. I'm with the Prince William Conservation Alliance, and we are delighted to have Larry Meade here, who is the president of the Northern Virginia Bird Club and a noted Northern Virginia birder, to share his views of birds throughout the United States. And I just for a minute want to say that we are offering these programs free of charge. Thanks to the donations from people like you, our members. We really appreciate it, and that's what keeps us going. So that if you're looking for our other programs or what we're doing, please just go to our webpage. And if you are interested in donating and supporting us, you can click that link right there on the top right of the page and join us. So I assume everybody is pretty familiar with Zoom, which you can ask a question if you want to interrupt or let people know by clicking the raise hand thing under participants. And there's also the chat feature where you can send a message to everybody or ask a question. So Larry is going to do his program, and throughout the program, if you have a question or a short statement, we're going to do that right as part of the program. And then if you have stories from someplace in the United States to share, we invite you to share them with us at the end of the program. So again, we're delighted to have Larry, who's rolling his eyes at me.
That's all good.
I saw you. And we're delighted to have him here. And I'm going to turn the program to you, Larry.
So this program is, I actually did this program for Northern Virginia Bird Club, but we had a little hiccup. So some people missed it. I've been trying to see it. So this is sort of a makeup for that, but it's also for all you new people. Happy to share. So basically this is about birding the four corners of the United States, and you can see the four corners represented by the flags. There's Washington State in one corner, Maine, Southern California it'll be, and then Florida. And it won't be just birds. I'm going to talk about other things I saw and adventures I had and things like that. So should be fun. All right. So we start our journey. We begin our journey in Maine. Take two. So this is like a tourist map. I thought this was festive. So to kind of show you where I went, I landed in New Hampshire, drove to Bangor up here, and then we went to, what was it called? I got here. Oh, I went with Bob Duchesne, who is a bird leader, but he's also a country music DJ and also a legislature in Maine. So he's had quite the varied career. So he took us up to here to these lakes, a place called Pittston Farm. And then when I was done with that was for a couple of days. We birded all the woods in here. And then I went to Bangor, past Bangor to Bar Harbor. And that's where I took a cruise to see dolphins, whales, and birds. And then I went down here and out. So I'll show you what I saw. So this is on our way to Pittston Farm. This is what I remember of Maine. Lots of water, lots of green, because this is a boreal forest. So everything just was wet. And by the way, this was June 2011 when I did this, just so you give an idea. And he said it was just after black fly season. So that was good. We missed the black flies. All right, so on our way, we saw birds that we normally get here only in migration. They breed there, which is cool, like this yellow-bellied flycatcher. Kind of a big deal to see a yellow-bellied flycatcher around here. I haven't seen tons, but there are quite a few of them. Here's another one. All the warblers that we only see in migration breed up there too, like this bay-breasted warbler. This is not the perfect photo, but you can see the bay breast on them. So lots of warblers up there. And you can see the typical boreal forest, the conifers. Here's the bird, probably the bird of the trip. This was black-backed woodpecker. And this was, at the time, my number 600 bird for my life list, all in the United States. So was kind of funny because the way we did it, we would drive up to the woods and we'd all get out and walk, and we walk a ways, and then Bob would like truck, like he cruise back, kind of jog back to the car and then catch up with us, and then we'd keep going. Well, it was one of the times when he jogged back to the car that we found this woodpecker, and when he got back, we go, "We got a black-backed woodpecker." He goes, "What?" So, yep, that's it. So this is really a bird that people seek. It's got the black and the yellow crown there. It's really a pretty bird. And this one was pretty low too, which was nice. All right, we saw breeding waterfowl like these goldeneyes. That's look at all those goldeneye ducklings there. We saw, now of course I have to show you some butterflies. These are Canadian swallowtails, very similar to our eastern tiger swallowtails, but these are, they're a little different. The wings are a bit different, and perfect for Maine. What do you think they're on? Moose poop. They're butterflies will do that. They'll get on poop to get the minerals out of it. So they're really enjoying this moose poop. So saw a lot of these, by the way. Here's the only one of these I've ever seen, the salt and pepper and salt skipper. You can see why it's called that. Good name. Here's a really cool moth I saw. The St. Lawrence tiger moth. It's huge. It's a really big moth. And boy, just really charismatic. Beautiful, beautiful insect. This is a spear-marked black moth. Now, I had just started learning butterflies, or I hadn't for that long, but I had field guide. So I thought this was a butterfly. So what I did was I was just searching through my guides. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find anything that looked like that. And I was just like, and then eventually I realized it doesn't have the little knobs on the end of the antenna, which a butterfly would have. So I figured, oh, it's a moth. That explains it. So it's a moth that looks like a butterfly in a lot of ways. Also has this thick body here, which is more typical of moths. So that one tricked me, but figured it out in the end. But yeah, that's a northern one. I've never seen that anywhere else. So, of course, I got to show you some dragonflies. Racket tip-tailed emerald. His it really does look like a tennis racket, doesn't it? The end there. So again, that's a northern specialty. We don't have those around here. So I really liked seeing him. Was a pretty big one. Okay, here's the snowshoe hare. So you're aware, these guys, when it's winter, they turn white so that they can blend in with the snow. This is what he looks like in June. Look at those feet. It's huge. So he can walk on the snow, right? Run on the snow and get away from the predators. But that's a pretty big rabbit. It's a hare. Actually, it's a hare. Hares, I guess, are bigger than rabbits. So that was cool to see that. Here's one of my favorite photos from the trip. This is Acadia National Park in Bar Harbor. So I was at the top of Cadillac Mountain. I took this photo, and I just liked all the greens and the blues and the little islands out there, and and the shadows. You can see the shadows from the clouds there. So that's from the top of the mountain. Acadia National Park and Bar Harbor, right on the coast. All right. And also at the top of that mountain, you had a lot of these little guys, the red squirrels. They're really red. And pretty curious. This guy was looking at me. All right. Now, one thing I really remember from the trip are the lobster rolls. I'll never forget. Food is important. When you travel places, it's good to get the local food because you might not ever get it again. So like when I was in Michigan, I got pasties, you got to get it. But the lobster rolls are the thing in Bar Harbor, of course. And there's something about it. It's the ones on the street, just the street side vendors, the trucks right on the side of the street. They're amazing. And I'll never forget that. So I might go back just for that. I mean, that alone is worth the trip. I got several of those, several meals of that. All right. So in Bar Harbor itself, we have these guys. This was a life bird, the black guillemots. There were quite a few of these guys swimming around. They're in Alcid, I believe. And then these puffins, there are a lot of the puffins breed in that area, the Atlantic puffins. If you want to see puffins, that's a good place to see them. In fact, the boat trip I'll talk about was called a puffin and whale tour. So definitely the puffins are a big draw up there. Puffins, you can also see them in the farther south. Like I've had them in Virginia, way out like 50 miles off the coast during a winter trip. So they'll disperse more when they're wintering. But it's pretty cold to be on a boat out in the middle in the winter. But I did it, and I did see a puffin, so that was cool. And you can see the convergent evolution, like a penguin. See how they're dark on top and white on the bottom? So just like penguins, because a predator from above will not see him as well if he's black, and one from below will not see him the white as well because it blends in with the sky. So that's an interesting, because they're not related. So it's an interesting, they both have that adaptation. All right, and this is from the boat. We saw these Arctic terns. That was a life bird. See these ones, the really long tails, short little legs. There's some more of the black guillemots there too. Yeah, these guys, if you've heard, they have one of the longest migrations. They like to always be in the light and the warm. So they'll fly from basically the far north all the way to the far south, near the South Pole. So northern latitudes to southern latitudes, and it's always summer for them. So they're committed to enjoying the nice weather. So that was cool. That was one I was looking for. I had kind of a list. Whenever I do these trips, I have kind of a list of birds I want to see, and this was definitely one. So this was one I took from the boat. I just saw it fly by and I wasn't sure what it was, and it turned out to be a Manx Shearwater. It's one of the few I've seen, and so I was happy to get that photo. He was moving fast, so it was. But shearwaters are usually deep sea birds. We see them off the coast of North Carolina a lot. So here's what we were out for, most people on the boat. I told the guy I wanted to see birds too, but obviously we wanted to see whales also. So this is a whale we saw. We saw a few whales. This is the one we got close to. His name is Arch. He's a humpback whale. How do we know his name's Arch? Because on the boat, they had this whole series of photos of the different individual whales, and you can look at their tail pattern and tell who they are. So I found one from my camera, the photo I took. I saw one that matched this tail exactly based on the scarring and the pattern, and it's Arch. We have Facebook. You could call that tail book, I guess. Right. Tail book for whales. And this guy on the boat was such a punster. He was always telling puns about the terns, turn about is fair play. If the tern flies away and then comes back, if you see two terns together, one good tern deserves another. He just went on and on, which was fine. It was fun. All righty. So another trip I took was to Washington. This was a bit earlier. This was 2009. Here's another tourist map. In this one, I just stayed in this area here on the peninsula. So basically, I flew into Seattle, drove up, and I stayed in Port Angeles here. And then I drove around here, went up here, the Cape Flattery, which is the westernmost point, most northwestern point. Down here, it's not actually on here, but Westport. I took a pelagic boat ride out of Westport, and then I finished the loop back up. So I just stayed on the Olympic Peninsula here. Haven't explored the rest of Washington. So Here's the Olympic National Park, which is near Port Angeles. Lots of trees. Lumber is a big industry up there. And here's somebody. This guy was in, I gotta check that. This guy was in the parking lot. These guys are like sparrows hopping around, American pipits. We have these in Virginia, but only in the winter. And you got to go out to rural areas usually to find them. Sometimes they'll pop down other places, but this guy was not shy. He's just right there. Big as day. So that's it's on. Yeah, we never see them in breeding plumage, so that was a treat. Here's the deer they have. We have white-tailed. They have black-tailed. You can see the black tail on the deer here. Pretty nice. Looks pretty healthy. Those guys running around. All right, here is the only glacier I've ever seen, because like I said, I've not been to Alaska or up north. This is the Clare Glacier. Now, remember, this was 2009. I don't know if it's even there anymore. It might be gone by now. But you can see it down here. And so this is at the top of the mountain, Clare Glacier. So I thought that was pretty cool to see a glacier, or as the British would call it, glacier, right? So, all right. So this is the guillemots you see on the West Coast. Remember there were black guillemots on the East Coast, but these are pigeon guillemots. These are a different species. So again, another life bird. Remember, life birds I had not seen in my life. So that was cool. I think this was at Port Angeles. So out west, the gull situation is really mixed up. 90% of the gulls are probably hybrids of something. They're all mixed up. They're all mutts. But I was pretty sure this is a pure Western gull, just based on my field guides. So I said, even if he's not, I said he was. He's mostly Western gull. So I counted him as a life bird. This was on the beach. These are definitely Heermann's gull. The Heermann's gulls don't hybridize too much. These are pretty. They got the red bills and the slate gray bodies. They're usually in groups like that. So this is one we don't get in the East at all. So those are nice. Okay, one thing that's interesting out there is they have some of the same birds we have, some of them, but they're dark for some reason. They're just really dark. The subspecies or the more, I don't know if subspecies or morphs out there, because our white-crowned are not this dark. But I noticed several of the birds are like that, just darker versions. Here's Cape Flattery. And out there on the beaches, there's lots of, it's really rocky. You get these big promontories of rocks. These are, what are the, murres, common murres. You can see lined up on the rocks over here. And you can see whitewashed birds stand up here a lot. Here's the Pelagic Cormorants. I thought this was cool with the waterfall there. Again, these are not ones we get here. We only have double crested and great cormorants in the East, except for the rare neotropical might show up. There was one last year. Never know, but I don't think we ever get these Pelagic Cormorants. So that's what's cool, East and West. The Western birds, you get some totally different birds, because that divide, the mountains and just the habitats, the birds have really evolved into different species over there. So again, remember, if you've seen our oyster catchers, they're brown and white. Again, over there, they're black. As I said, a lot of the birds are just darker. So these are the black oyster catchers. All right. Oh, now this was neat. These are stellar sea lions. This has come from Cape Flattery. I saw these. I believe they are the second largest seal, or third. I think walruses and elephant seals might be bigger. But you can see this is the Beachmaster, the male right here, that huge guy. And you can see all his females all laid out here, sunning themselves. So a long distance photo, but I thought it was cool to see him rearing up like that. protecting all his ladies. Again, I think that's only in the West. I don't think we have those. We don't have those here. All right, this is foxglove. This is also known as digitalis. This is where they make digitalis from. It's a, which is a heart medicine. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it was kind of a cool plant. So I found out later what it was. And here's some birds farther south. Northwestern Crows, question mark. The reason it's a question mark is these birds have been lumped away with American crows. So these might disappear from my life list. They've decided they're not really a species, but oh well, bad for me. This is the rainforest, the Quinault rainforest. Out there, they have a lot of, they actually have temperate rainforest out there. It rains all the time. I know Washington's famous for that. Here's some devil's club. This is another plant I thought was cool. The berries. So this is Forks, the home of twilight. I didn't take this photo. I found this, but I passed through there. Forks is a big, it's like a cottage industry for vampires now because of the Twilight movies and books. So they really latched onto that, especially at that time. Maybe it's not as big a deal now, but I thought that was neat. All right, so I got down to Westport and I found interesting shorebirds like this wandering tattler. Here's a surf bird, kind of a neat name. They're a type of sandpipers. And then I took a boat ride. I went out and did a pelagic trip out of Westport, and all sorts of birds we don't have here, like this black-footed albatross. There's a lot of them out there, but this was cool. He was flying right at us, and I got him full spread. So I thought that was cool. And here's sooty shearwaters. There were thousands and thousands of these guys. This is one we occasionally see on the East Coast, but out there, they're just everywhere when you go out to sea a while. And actually, when you do a West Coast pelagic, you don't have to go as far to see birds as you do in the East. In the East, sometimes you got to get, it can take you hours before you start seeing anything interesting. But out there, they're just there. That's cool. Pink-footed shearwaters. And these are called tube noses. You can see on this guy, he's got the little tube there on his nose. That's just to eject the salt water out. So that's one thing these birds have. So they're called that. And we have shearwaters in the East, but not this type. All right. This was a fairly rare one. This was a lifer, another one, short-tailed shearwater. And you can see there's there were a lot of birds out there. You can see all the variety here. There's fulmar here. You can see all these albatross and shearwater, all sorts of stuff. And this was near a shrimp boat. The shrimp boat was, I guess they were putting food out or somehow, but the birds loved it. Now, this was the bird of the trip, probably. This is a Laysan Albatross. This is the same as that bird, what is it called? Wisdom in Midway. What is she, 60 years old or something? And lays an egg every year. So I knew this was good because the people on the boat, the guys that have done, 100 of these trips, they were getting excited. So when the guys on the boat get excited, you're on a good bird. So this was an exciting bird, the Laysan Albatross. So I enjoyed seeing that one. All right, on to Southern California. This is a trip I did in 2010, June again. So this one was just confined to San Diego County. San Diego, I went out to the Salton Sea, the desert here, Anza Borrego Desert, that area. So this is the Tricolored Blackbird. Looks like our red-winged blackbird, except the epaulette is much more red, and it's got this white here instead of yellow. And this is a fairly rare bird and declining, a lot of habitat loss. But I was able to see one, which is nice. Here's a black phoebe. Again, all of the birds out there, a lot of the birds are dark compared to ours. Our phoebes aren't black like that. Our eastern phoebe. This was just in a little neighborhood. They're pretty common out there. Here's a California towhee. They have several birds are California this, California that. Sea lions. Handsome. You can see the male and the females. Or those might be pups, actually. I wonder if that's a female and those are pups. Could be. Who knows? But they're neat. This is the desert, as I mentioned, the Anza-Borrega Desert. We drove through there on the way to. I always saw LeConte's thrashers. That was a new bird for me. So that was cool. And their thrashers are, they're related to our brown thrashers. They're mimids. And remember, mimids are catbirds, mockingbirds, thrashers. So there's a lot more types of thrashers and things out west than we have. All right, so this is the Salton Sea. Salton Sea used to be a resort area, but I think that was long ago. Now a lot of the lake is dried up, and it's just not the attraction it used to be. But lots of these, you can just see how a lot of it looked. A lot of these California gulls out there. Now, this was a good bird. This is a yellow-footed gull. This is, you can see why it's called that. It's like, what are we going to call this gull? Well, it's got big yellow feet. Let's call it a yellow-footed gull. Yay. So it's, this is a bird that's, I think it's more of a Mexican bird, but they're usually at the Salton Sea. So if you want to see one, that's pretty much the only place to see me in the United States regularly. So I was glad to see that guy.
And you got a question on this, I think, of somebody that wants to know. Wendy wants to know if you took the pictures on foot or in a vehicle.
Oh, these are all on foot. I think, as far as I can remember, yeah. I'd say they're all on foot, yeah. I do have photos I've taken from the car, but I think these were all on foot and other places. But yeah, usually I'm out and walking around. So thanks. All right. So that was a good find. Definitely a pretty gull. All right. This is another one from the Salton Sea, the Burrowing Owl. It's got its head turned all the way around, staring at me. And these guys, they do burrow. They do make burrows, which is unusual for an owl. And these, you can find these in Florida, actually, too. And they're fairly common out west. But there's a few places in Florida to find them. All right, this is the Roadrunner. Not in the best light there, kind of in the shade, but I did the best I could. But I got the whole bird. So that's on a lawn there near Salton Sea. Running around. Roadrunner. And there's a black-necked stilts. They breed there. This is a little baby. Black-necked stilt chick. And then I went over to the Tijuana Slough, which is the beach right near the Mexican border, far south of San Diego County. So there's this long-billed curlew there. And these guys, least churn, some more babies. June, so there's a lot of breeding going on. And here's marbled godwits. Now, another one I had there was the Ridgeway rail. I didn't, at the time, it was a clapper rail. This is one thing good about birding. You can get an armchair lifer, it's called. So I heard the rail, the clapper rail. I put it on my list. Oh, clapper rail, that's nice. And then later on, it magically appeared on my eBird list as a new species because they had split it from clapper rail. So we got a new bird. I didn't even know it at the time. And I count rails as herd only. So most birds I don't, but for my list, I'll count a rail if I hear it. So I don't like to, but you know. All right. Now, Florida, I went twice. I went in 2011 and 2019. In the 2011 trip, it was pretty much just to Key West down here and then to the Dry Tortugas and back. So I birded around Key West and Dry Tortugas. And that was that one was nice. We spent the night on the boat and we spent the whole day in the Dry Tortugas. So that was pretty cool. And we actually had a chef on the little boat we were on who cooked us meals and like brought us snacks while we were birding. It was luxurious. So, but then the second time was last year. I went with wings for a week, and that one we went. We started in Fort Myers. We went up to St. Petersburg area, and then we went through the Everglades, all the way down to the Keys, back to the Dry Tortugas again, and then all the way back up to Miami, and then I flew out of Miami home. So that was a pretty nice circuit. A lot of the time, we had 2 guides for that. John Dunn, if you're familiar with him, no, he wasn't on that. That was Arizona. Scratch that. Gavin Bieber is a pretty well-known wings guide. He was the lead guide on that one. He was really good. If you ever do a wings tour, go with Gavin. He's awesome. John Dunn is also good, but he does the Arizona trips. Because Gavin and John were on my Arizona trip. But that's for another time. Anyway, so this is the Dry Tortugas. You can look at the water. The water in Florida is so amazing. It's just not like our water. Very clear. I like this with the bleached out wood there. Nice. All right. So as we were approaching Dry Tortugas, we saw these masked boobies. They almost look like gannets, but there's an island there, little island there. You can always see them. They're always there, the masked boobies. And then we saw a lot of these brown boobies over here. And this is a magnificent frigate bird, juvenile version. I'll show you some more about the frigate birds. Here's a magnificent frigate bird flying around. These guys are just kind of floating over the Dry Tortugas all the time. So the Dry Tortugas are a group of islands about, what are they? Maybe 100 miles from Florida, but they're U.S. territory. And there used to be a prison there. And was Harvey Mudd, who was the doctor who helped John Wilkes Booth, was in prison there at one time. Now it's a national park. So these guys were there. Here's a magnificent frigate bird rookery. You can see here that red there. That's a male who's inflating his throat to, I guess, to attract. I don't know if it's a territorial display because he's already in the rookery. But you can see, and then you see the whiteheads, some of the juveniles. So that's how they nest. And frigate birds usually are only in the air. They hardly ever land except when they're breeding. And they eat a lot. I think I've heard they eat a lot of flying fish. They'll snatch them out of the air. So we saw a lot of these, the brown noddies. It's another bird you'll see down there. Both times I went, I looked for the black noddy, didn't get it. They were there. There was probably one there, but you got to look through thousands and thousands of these brown noddies to find it, and we just couldn't find it. So that's all right. So one thing about that at that time of year, this is April when I went both times, right in migration. So Cape May warblers like this are flying through. There's a fountain. Remember, there's no water there, so there's a fountain you can sit at right in the middle of the park, and pretty much every bird has to come there at some time if it wants to drink. So this is a red star. He came in, he's shaking the water off. And there's a worm-eating warbler came to get some water. And I saw other things. I saw vireos like this guy, the black whiskered vireo. This is a Florida specialty. You can see the black whiskers there. So that was nice. This is you just sit on the bench and the birds just come to you. It's pretty amazing. All right, this is one of my favorite photos. This has actually been used a lot. This falcon, so many songbirds to hunt. He was just sailing over me, and I pointed my camera up the air and got the shot. Lucky to get it in focus so well. But yeah, this one is one of my favorite photos. Actually, I had it on Flickr, and I think it was in England. A professor found it. He used this photo on one of his tests. I think it was on physics or aerodynamics or something. So, and other people have used it too. So he sent me a copy of it too. So that was neat. So good use. And of course, Peregrine Falcon is the fastest creature in the world, as we know. Here's something that was cool. I saw this is actually an American crocodile. We were on a little boat tooling around. I took this from the boat, the launch, because the boat we were on had a little launch you could ride around in. And we rode up to see what we could find, and we saw this crocodile. So he must have swum from a long ways away. But see the teeth sticking out. That's how you know it's not an alligator. Long snout and the teeth. So that I've never seen another crocodile. That was awesome. All right, of course, I got to show you the dragonflies. This is an Antillean skimmer. It was actually split from the roseate skimmer. So they used to be the same species, so they also do that. This one's way more red. So that's an Antillean skimmer. That was in Key West. All right, now this is pictures from the second trip last year. This was my first live bird I saw on that trip, the Nanday Parakeet. Obviously not native to North America, but Florida has a lot of exotic birds that are been so established. There's so many of them that now they're what we call countable, and you can put them on your life list. So this one was at Fort DeSoto Park near St. Petersburg. So they were pretty easy to see sitting up there. It's a pretty big bird too. This is a snail kite. This is one we saw just on the long side of the road. We hopped out of the car, and this is actually a juvenile snail kite. And they do eat snails. You can see he's got a little buffet set up there. He's got all these snails here he's eating. And this is an interesting story because they were declining because of habitat loss and their food source. But then these exotic snails, apple snails, came to Florida. And these guys actually love apple snails. And so the snail kite population is now rising. And there's some evidence that their bills have actually starting to adapt. They've evolved to better eat the apple snails. So sometimes these exotic species are helpful to our species. Certainly was to the snail kites. So here's a Florida scrub jay. These guys, everyone just sort of feeds these guys in their neighborhoods. This was in a neighborhood. It's like everybody's got their own little flock of scrub jays they feed, and kind of like their pets almost. But this guy's, they're related to our blue jays. And this is endemic to Florida. They're only in Florida. So now this is an interesting story. The mangrove cuckoo. People sometimes spend hours looking for these. I know some people, Elton, some other people, they spend the whole afternoon trying to find the darn mangrove cuckoo. So Gavin had heard there was one at this little teeny park we went to, and we walked in, and the other guide, Evan. So we go in, we walk about, I don't know, 20 yards, if that. And Gavin goes, so this might be a bit of a Hail Mary, but we're looking for and then Evan just goes, he just points up right above our head, mangrove cuckoo. Took all of a minute to find the sucker. So, okay, great. Let's all get our photos and move on. So that was cool. Easy life bird. Same thing almost happened here. Bahama Mockingbird. Again, we went to a little park this one was near Fort Lauderdale. And this one's actually even rarer than the mangrove cuckoo. We just walked in. It was just right there in the parking lot. I said, okay. Thank you, buddy. So that was neat. And this was the bird of the trip. This is a Key West quail dove. Not the greatest feather. He was in the shade. And Gavin had actually never seen one in North America. And he's seen, I don't know, close to 800 birds or something. So we found this guy, and this is kind of a mega rarity. They're usually in the Caribbean, like the West Indies. But so they're not actually usually in Key West. This is an interesting story. What happened was somebody shot one, I don't know, 200 years, whenever they named it, 100, 150, 200, whatever it was. And they shipped it through Key West. So it went to England. The sample went to England, but it said it came from Key West. So they thought, oh, it's from Key West. We'll call it the Key West quail dove. Well, it wasn't. It was from somewhere else, but the name stuck. So pretty much really a misnomer because they're not in Key West. This one was, where was it? Farther north. Yeah. So that was really exciting to see that. A lot of people had been looking for that bird. So it's a beautiful bird. So this is another exotic bird we found, the red-whiskered bulbul. Does count for your life list, like I mentioned. We went to a little neighborhood park, walked around until we found these guys. They're a small bird. And this was my last life bird of the list. This was in a neighborhood near Miami. We walked around the streets for a while until we found it. Spot-breasted oriole, a little backlit, but not too bad. At least his eyes there. So some other stuff we saw. Great white heron. This is actually considered a color morph of great blue heron. It is a great blue heron. It's just white, but it might be split at some point. They might decide it's a different species. I don't know. But they're fairly common in Florida. This one was in the Everglades. This was something that was really cool. I was looking forward to seeing was the manatees. This was in the Everglades at the end near off a pier. And there were actually several of these guys there. This one surfaced long enough for me to get a decent photo. And they're doing okay. They like it where it's warm, but they really get victimized by the boats and the boat propellers. It's a real problem for them, real menace. A lot of them get killed by that. They try to get the boats, put people to slow down, but I don't know, only mixed success. But they're hanging in there. So there were several where we were. So anyway, yeah, a few butterflies I saw. The Julia heliconian, a nice, beautiful orange butterfly. Here's all these invasive species. There's so many invasive species there. Black spiny-tailed iguana. This is a native species. This is at one of the best places I went to. Let me get the name right. It's the Wakadahatchee Wetlands in Boca Raton. It's a water treatment place, but they got a really beautiful boardwalk and tons of birds breed there. It's just really awesome. And so this, yeah, a lot of photographers were on this purple gallinule. So that was nice of him to be so cooperative. This was funny. This roseate spoonbill. I talked about the invasive species. These iguanas are another invasive one. And this roseate spoonbill about had enough of him. So he was trying to bite his tail and chasing him off. It's like, I don't know if he's threatening the baby. I don't know what, but he was really mad at this iguana. That was pretty entertaining. This is a least bittern. So here we have least bitterns in Virginia, but it's like really hard to see them, much less photograph them. And the Florida, he's just right there, right next to the boardwalk, in plain sight. So that was very cooperative. This is an invasive bird, the gray-headed swamp hen. These things, Gavin really had it out for these guys. He doesn't like them. Apparently, they just eat everything. They eat other birds, eggs. They're just voracious, and they're big too. So these are they're a problem, but they're pretty. We'll give them that. All right, as I mentioned, lots of breeding birds there. The wood storks, and that's all I got. Thank you very much. It's the blue bird of happiness.
Well, that just flew right by, Larry.
Yeah. Well, I tried to keep, well, was it 53? Yeah. All right.
So that was great. Is the purple gallinule that you saw at the Waxahachie?
Yes.
That was the first place I saw a gallinule.
Uh-huh.
There. We used to go there every year to visit relatives.
Yeah, isn't that place cool?
Very.
Yeah, we saw lots of birds there.
Yeah, and we got to go from the time when it was new. And then seeing it all fit in or grow and become older and better habitat.
Yeah.
So does it
Somebody's
have a story they'd like to share?
I'm hearing what am I hearing?
Yeah, I can.
Somebody have their volume up, or I'm here.
Okay, now you have to unmute, Larry.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I just
I'm back.
muted everybody.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, now
So-
you guys can mute.
Are there any stories to tell?
I'll mention the food real quick too. We had the Cuban sandwiches and the key lime pie and the stone crabs at a restaurant where they feed sharks. It's just cool stuff. Yeah, Dave, you had a story, Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. When you mentioned Key West, you brought back memory of an old family trip we took about 30 years ago. My wife and two sons, we were in Key West, and I decided my birding in those days was very limited because of family obligations. And we were in Key West, and I said, I really want to see the dried tortugas. So I negotiated with my wife. I said, look, I would like to take a seaplane out to the dried tortugas. And my older son volunteered to go with me. So he was about 11 at the time. And we got out to the seaplane dock, and there were two seaplanes, and there were 6 people, my son and myself, and 2 honeymoon couples. And the layout in the seaplane, they have 3 seats in each seaplane. So the pilot said, one of the pilots said, well, we're going to have to divide you guys up. And both the honeymoon couples said, oh, we really want to stay together. So I look at my son and I say, well, are you okay going by yourself? Yeah, sure, Dad, no problem. So he got in this one seaplane, I got in the other seaplane, both revved up. His seaplane taxied out first. They took right off, no problem. If you know anything about seaplanes, if it's a calm day, they really have trouble getting lift. And what they do basically is they go around in a circle and they fly over their own. They cruise over their own wake to give themselves a little bump to get up in the air. Well, we could not get up in the air.
Oh no.
We tried and we tried and we tried, and we couldn't get up. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, my son is out there in the tri-tortugas by himself. And I was a little bit peeved that they had done that to us. Well, finally, the other couple said, we'll come back tomorrow. So the pilot said, well, I'll take you out. So the two of us, we were able to, with the reduction in weight, we were able to take off. And we got out there and we landed, and I found the other pilot, and I said, well, where's my son? And he points out to the middle of the lagoon, and he said, oh, I gave him a snorkel and fins, and he was out there swimming around, not a care in the world.
He's fine.
So anyway, that was our family.
How old was he at the time?
11.
Oh, okay.
11. And that was a great adventure. So
sure.
We didn't see many birds. You took the boat, which is a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I could see the brown noddies on the pilings, and maybe a couple of brown boobies.
Right.
But you can't really see much from the island if you can't get in a boat. So
yeah, well, like I said, once you get on the island, there's stuff around. But the Park Service has a boat. That's what we did for the second trip. Took the Park Service boat over there, which is like takes hundreds of people. So, and they've got a restaurant on there, and so that was cool. But the first time was a little private boat. So neat. Yeah, Key West. If you haven't been to Key West, I recommend. It's pretty wild.
So do you have a favorite place?
Of what? Of all of them?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're all
Yeah, I don't know.
so different.
Yeah. Now the San Diego one, I might want to try that again. I was supposed to do a pelagic out there, but it got canceled. So, and then expecting San Diego itself to be really sunny, but it had the June gloom. So you had all the cloud layer over San Diego itself. It was kind of great. But once we got to the desert, then it got sunny, like I expected. So Salton Sea, there was good sun and light. But it's still saw stuff. So yeah, I really liked Florida. I thought Florida was cool. Just the food. We went to a Cuban what was it? Cuban French fusion restaurant, and we got these big fruit smoothie things at a roadside stand, and a couple of big Cuban sandwiches. Just and then all the birds. The birds are just everywhere. They're just so that was pretty cool. And it's warm.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say that. So anybody else? Judy, you got a favorite place? Oh, Judy, raised your hand.
I even know how to do that.
You're
I just
on.
wanted a story about going up to Maine to see puffins.
Yeah.
I was really supposed to scuba diving, but the trip got canceled, and I decided I would go up to Maine instead. And I drove up to the most northern part of the coast. I can't remember the name of the town, but I get to this sort of ramshackle motel, and there's a car with Virginia tags at the next room, and it was John and Barbara Perry, whom some of you probably know or knew.
Sure. Uh-huh.
And we went out on this boat, and it was really calm on the way out, and we had a great time. It was really rough on the way back, and there was a woman on the boat saying her rosary. So that's my story.
That's pretty good.
So Norman, I went in April. April's a good time because then you get the migration, and it's not very hot yet. So.
And Norman wants to know what time of year.
Yeah, April. I'm saying April.
I didn't hear. Sorry.
That's okay.
Why April?
Because you got the warbler migration happening, and all the other shorebird migration, and it's not hot yet. It's like 80 and low humidity. So 70s and 80s. So
Sounds perfect.
yeah, it's good. I think if you went later, well, I mean, there's always birds, but there's another place. Space Coast is good too. They have a January festival that's pretty good, so you can go there too. Get a lot of the birds. But yeah, if you want to see a lot of warblers and flycatchers and whatever, April's good.
Cool. And Gifford, you have a story to share.
Yeah, the place that got me interested in birding, I went on a trip to Bonaventure Island, which is off the coast of Quebec. Pierce, Quebec is as far as east as you can go. And it's this island called Bonaventure Island. And it has, during the summer, it's a breeding colony for gannets. And it was the most amazing place I've ever been to. And there must have been 10,000 gannet birds there. And you can walk around this island and a whole bunch of other, great shorebirds and stuff. But to see the gannets sitting on their eggs, and then the males go out and they bring back the fish, and they're constantly going back and forth all day. If you like Maine, go a little further. It's a drive because it was an 8-hour drive from Quebec City, but it was absolutely worth it. It was the most amazing bird experience, and ever since then I've become fascinated with a lot of those birds.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, once in the we get gannets in the winter and the fall. Yeah. Once I was at Ocean City Inlet, which was good, and I saw this huge flock of birds coming my way from out to sea, and it was gannets. It was like a couple thousand gannets just flew in, and there must have been a huge school of fish there. They just were diving and eating this has lasted maybe half an hour, and then they just left. And they were gone, moving on. It was amazing.
Yeah, they dive in. It's so cool, and I got some really great video and pictures and stuff because they're just. I mean, it's a breeding colony. It's all during the summer. That's the time to go because that's when they're there in the summer.
Sure,
it's really fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where they go when they leave here.
Yeah, right. They go there, and there's another one off the coast of Newfoundland. And so if you like that Maine stuff, go a little further up into Canada. It's really, can't get into Canada now, but when the pandemic's over.
Do they have lobster rolls though?
Yes. Yes, lobsters are big up there too.
But are they the same? Just kidding.
Yeah. Great cheese too, because the French, you know, they're big on
Sure.
the
Oh, I'm
cheese.
sure the food is amazing.
Fromageries all over the place. Yeah.
Sure.
So anybody else got a story? Gary, Nancy, you go all over. Oh, shucks.
That's all right.
So my favorite was I was in Guatemala just on a vacation. We were in the jungle and I was just by myself standing in the middle of the trail and just looked over to the side of the trail to my left. And there was a red-headed mannequin right on a branch, right at eye level, like 10 feet from me. That was very cool.
Yeah. You never know.
You got to keep an eye out.
Yeah. Well, I always say it's not a zoo. You know, zoo is like you walk up, there's a name tag, you know what you're going to see in there, right? When you're outside, out in nature, you don't know what you're going to see. It's the roll of the dice. You know, I mean, you can sort of predict, but you don't know.
That's right.
So that's what makes it exciting.
So anybody got stories? We love stories here.
Yeah, I think we're anyway. Well, I appreciate everybody coming. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's.
Thanks, Larry. It was great.
You're welcome.
And Will,
Yeah. Excellent.
I recorded it, so you'll be able to see it on our YouTube channel.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Judy.
you.
Thank you. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everybody. See you soon.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks,
All
Kim.
right. Thanks, Gary.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry.
Maybe inspire some of you to visit some of those places.